Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I'm Mark Josephson, and welcome to the next edition of Cast Iron Bites. I am beyond excited to be in the presence of a true celebrity in our world, and that's Sari Kimbell. Sari, welcome to Cast Iron Bites. How are you doing today?
Amazing. It's so fun to be here with you. Thanks for having me on.
Um, my pleasure. Tell us a little bit about the things that are behind you there. It looks like an amazing snack shop.
I know it's like my wall of fame back here. It's been really fun to build it over the years, but I have, lots of products from all my clients and fuel members that I've worked with over the years now of, 23. So I launched in 2019 with my online program. So it's been a few years now.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that by way of introduction. Foodbizsuccess.com,
Uh-huh.
www.foodbizsuccess.com. I said I'd say it 3 or 4 times. I've already done it twice. Um, what tell us about your business. What do you do?
Yeah.
Why are people so like obsessed with you and following you everywhere you go?
So I help people start and grow packaged product businesses, handmade, the just an I love working with the just an idea people, right? You and I both really came out of COVID as well. And
Mhm.
it's like all those people who are in their home kitchen, like, I can do this. What if I could? What if I could start this salsa business or this bread, or everybody was making sourdough during COVID.
Yes.
But it's really helping those want to be entrepreneurs to launch their business thoughtfully, to do it legally, um, to do it profitably, and really step into not only making great product, because they already make, we all know you make amazing product. I love all of it, but we also need to become a real entrepreneur, a
Mhm.
business owner. And that's a shift because a lot of people I work with, and probably that you do too, have never been an entrepreneur before.
No, and no, not classically, but what I find, and I'm sure you do too, is they're some of the most savvy people.
Yes.
They might not have MBAs, but the way that they think about their business, even if they don't, they'll say, "Oh, I don't do marketing," and then tell me the 15 things they're doing to get customers, or I don't know anything about pricing, but my customer sure likes to spend money on fancy things or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
they're just different words in different
Hmm.
perspectives, but like really savvy. And at some point, my dog will bark, and I'll have to let him out and all that. So I apologize in advance. So just crisp up for me what your business is. So if people are going to
Yes.
buy your product, what is it?
So I have an online program called Food Business Success, and it has video modules, all of my tools that I've developed over the years, and it's all wrapped up into a nice online course. I also have a membership called Fuel, and we do group coaching calls. I bring in experts in the industry to really help people level up and to create a sense of community, because it's really lonely oftentimes for people doing this work. And you may tell your partner or your friends about everything you're doing and they just don't get it. And the advice that they give is sometimes really poor. So it's a place of community. So that's another offering I have. And then I do also offer one-on-one coaching for people who want that,
Got
real.
it. And I will say that you're being generous in offering a free copy of your book
Yes.
and something fun. Yeah, tell us about the book.
Yes. So I finally put out a book this last year. It was a big, it was a really great thing. It was really fun for me. Take all this knowledge that I've had over, even pre 2019 over the years. I worked for Whole Foods Market prior to starting my own
Oh, we're
business.
getting there. I got the whole
I
list of
know.
questions.
Yeah. So lots of experience in lots of areas, and finally put it all into a really simple, easy to read book. I have people tell me all the time, like, oh, thank you for not writing this like really heady, thing. It's like really fun. It's written in conversationally. The last chapter is all about the mindset piece, because I'm also a life coach as well as a business
Yep.
coach. So put this book out in June. It's been really well received. It's number one on Amazon for a little while, which is so fun. And yeah, we are doing giveaway for everybody watching. I'll just leave the giveaway up where you can get a digital copy of the book for free. And then I'm also going to do some special giveaways here in over the next 15 days to encourage people to come
Amazing.
on.
And so foodbizsuccess.com/cast iron,
Yes.
foodbizsuccess.com/cast iron, you're kind. Okay. So now I want to get into like the person behind the business.
Yeah.
So you have been a school teacher. You have
Yep.
worked at the family farm,
Yep.
and you've worked at Whole Foods doing like community and marketing and like real stuff. Walk us through that journey. What led you to each one, and then out of that, like, because that's a seems to be like like a compelling story, I'm sure.
Yeah. You know, some people have those, like my brother just like graduated high school and was like, I'm going to be a, computer engineer, like computer science. And like, that's what he's done his whole career. And I was like, what is my thing? Why can't I figure out what my thing is? And I bounced around to all these things. I also worked a lot in the food industry in my 20s in San Francisco, which was all about farm to table then.
Mhm.
So if I had to pick a theme, food is definitely a big part of it, the way it brings us together. Um, but yeah, I finally just decided to finish up my degree, and I had a lot of school teachers in my family, and I was like, I'll just become a teacher. I don't know what this I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do, but that seems like a good option. So I taught junior high for 2 years.
Mhm.
So seventh, eighth, and ninth grade. And I actually taught the former home ec. So they
Hmm.
rebranded it called Consumer and Family Sciences. But I taught people how
Hmm.
to cook. I taught these kids how to cook. I taught them how to sew. It was really fun. I had a great time. But ultimately that I didn't get renewed after a
Yeah.
couple of years. But it's one of those things you look back, I actually went into real estate development next, and then it was the 2008 housing. So
Mm.
that was not a great place to be when you're in family
Yeah.
real estate development. And
No.
then I got laid off. Then I went to the farm, an organic farm, and we had a consumer, um, the CSA, consumer
Hmm.
community support agriculture.
Sponsored,
Yep.
supported. Yeah.
And then we did a big wholesale. So we were shipping truckloads of spinach and lettuce to Whole Foods and HEB and things. And then they wanted this kind of in the between person that was helping restaurants and small retail to be able to source our products, and we did meat, eggs, and produce. So I took a job because I got laid off and didn't know what I was going to do, and I took this job creating a wholesale program. And
Mm.
I have a good knack of like, people are like, I think you could do this. I'm like, I think I could too. Let's go figure it out.
I mean, that's
And
entrepreneurship, right? That
yeah,
is
I just didn't know I
every
was.
day it's figuring it out, turning it. Um, you, how, what do you think your superpower is?
My superpower is really seeing a vision, helping people to define their vision, and then working backwards. And
Mm.
so as a I call myself a reinvention coach in some contexts because I feel like people just don't dream big enough. They're not seeing what's possible. We get really small in our lives, and hopefully people listening or on cast iron, they're seeing something bigger for themselves, a new possibility, right? Let's go try out this thing, entrepreneurship, which is so cool because I think entrepreneurship
Yeah.
builds you as a human and makes you a better human, not
How
just
do you
business.
in your I'm sorry to interrupt you, but in your coaching in your moment, so you have your business coach and a life coach. I was getting to the reinvention piece because
Yeah.
I told you before we started press record that I'm kind of obsessed with that word. Um, how do you get people to think that way, like in the moment? Like, do you just snap them out of it, or do you like they come to you and they say, "Oh, I want to make salsa and I want to sell my salsa," and you're like, "No, you should be doing this." Like, how do you? What are the like? How do you change that? How do you help people change their mindset?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it comes through coaching, on fuel calls or one-on-one, or I also have a program called Master Your Business. But it's first we got to get the product launched, right? We just got to get something out there that we can start testing. And so that's the first thing. But then after that, I really try to help people like, what does success look like for you? Because I don't
Mm.
think we should all be defining success as, you know, the millions of dollar buyout or it looking a certain way. Like the beauty of doing these food businesses is that there's so many, like we all eat. It's very democratic, right? We all
Yep.
eat 3 times a day, probably more. And there's a large number of people in the US, especially who want to spend, more discretionary income on good food and have connection with their makers and have more sustainable options and premium options and on and on. And so it's such a beautiful opportunity to tap into that and kind of see what's possible for you. And so I just try to help people like, what does success look like for you? And I can usually tell when they're playing small. And so I'll challenge them and say, okay, we can start there, but what if it was like this,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah, that's really cool. When I was starting this business, um, it was after some time off from work, and our life was changing. Our kids were starting to go to college. We were thinking about like our next chapters, and my wife and I sat down and we made a list. And at the top of it was, "Wouldn't it be great if dot dot dot?"
Yes, I love that.
And we started to fill that in, and we're like, "Why can't we like?" I wanted to be with my kids in the summer when they were home, and I like all the time. I was like, "Oh, then why don't I be a remote company and work from home?" Right? Like,
Yeah.
and I could hire talent from all over the country, all over the world, those sorts of things. And so I think asking that question or starting like, wouldn't it be great if?
Mm-hmm.
And my wife is a big manifester. I'm going to manifest that that's going to happen. Let's go like do that and make that happen. Um, so I'm sure everyone who's watching and listening now is like, oh my God, I need to know more. And so one of the best ways is to go get the new free book, right? So the
Yes.
free book is at foodbizsuccess.com/castiron with some other special goodies in there as well. Please, please, please. And we will post it and share and all that stuff in there as well. We'll keep that going. Let's talk a little bit more tactically about some of the advice you give people. What are some of the common mistakes you see people making? Maybe one or two big mistakes.
Um, I think, well, one of the mistakes is just not getting something out there, being paralyzed by perfection and analysis paralysis, wanting everything to be like, it has to be perfect. And it's like, well, what is perfect anyway? Right?
Right.
So that's definitely one before anybody even launches, or even once you're launched, maybe that you're like, I don't know, I don't want to post on social media unless it's perfect, or I don't want to write these emails. And so much about entrepreneurship is just like you got to get into the river, you got to get into the flow, and that's where you learn, and that's where you build confidence. And I talk a lot about B minus work. Gotta just
Uh,
get something out there, right?
yeah,
In software, you got to get that MVP. Like you got to
you
have
do. Yeah.
something to test.
Yeah. We call it an MVP, a minimally viable product for those that
Right.
don't follow the software. It's like, what's the least amount of work you can do to put something into market to learn from it? And in my years building software companies, there's a very set pattern that we do, which is, I think, applicable to lots of things, which is we do it, we measure it,
Yep.
we then look at the data and say, what did we learn from that? And then we say, based on what we learned, you know, people don't seem to be opening this email, or they get, people are falling off in this part of the onboarding or sign up flow. Here, what can we do about it? And then we
Yeah.
come up with ideas, and then you go do that. And I love the metaphor of getting into the river, because you got to get wet, you got to get a little bit uncomfortable.
Yes.
You might be cold after, but it might be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And you're going to learn so much once you get in, but iterating in your mind and trying to like, oh, I got to have the 3 perfect flavors, or I got to have the perfect
yeah,
size. And then you ask a bunch of people who aren't your customer anyway, and they all give you their opinion, right? And then we're just like stuck. It's like, just launch with 3 flavors
just
and
launch,
see what people like. And then
just
you can.
launch, baby. So I was going to ask you for pieces of advice, but it sounds like there's a bunch in there. Um, tell me a bit more about what successful reinvention looks like and why people shouldn't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Because reinvention, it does because it sounds kind of scary too, maybe.
It is. I mean, reinvention implies that you become somebody different, right? That you are like a caterpillar to a butterfly is a
Yeah.
completely different thing, right? Completely different. And I think that can be very scary for people when they think about starting a business, because I do think you have to have some amount of reinvention. You're reinventing yourself into a business owner, into
Hmm.
a CEO. And I talk a lot about that we have to be becoming the CEO of our business. Um, and it's scary because you're worried that you might leave, like some people might not come along, right? Or some
Hmm.
people might judge you. Um,
Hmm.
it's also scary to just leave your known, right? Leave the cave, the things like the warm, cozy known
Yes.
of your life. And now you got to be putting yourself out there, asking for sales and writing these emails and maybe doing social media and trying new products. And it's going to be messy, right? It just
And you
really
might
is.
fail. And you might fail.
Yeah.
And failure can be terrifying. But I find, like Charlie Brown, the more you fail, like the more comfortable you are, and like you're more likely to get it right. And all right, well, as we're coming to the end of this bite-sized edition of Bites, tons of chock full of great information. I have three rapid-fire questions for you that I like to ask everybody here. And the first is about your favorite meal you ever had.
My favorite, sorry, I'm having a little
It's
moment
okay.
here. There we go. It's working now.
You're all right. So what's your favorite meal you've ever had?
Oh my gosh, ever? Oh, it's gosh. I mean, it's got to be. We used to put on these pretty phenomenal farm dinners when I worked at the farm. And again, that's you asked about my superpower. So I used to do these giant farm dinners, 120 people, and they were decked out. And we had all seasonal food. And so it's like you give me a vision and I can work backwards from it. I can create
Yeah.
it. Um, Gosh, so anything involving, really like seasonality and bringing together, local flavors. But I mean, just, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like my most amazing thing. Maybe something around, I mean, amazing pasta, right? When you can get
Hmm.
really good pasta. I'm a big gnocchi fan.
Cool.
But
Thank you. I'm going to take a detour from my questions and ask you a different question for this one
yeah.
because I meant to touch on it earlier. And I'll say to Grace, who's going to edit this. Grace, turn on the camera now. Edit this because this is going to be a snippet. What you say? Work backwards.
Yeah.
What does it mean to work backwards? Because that seems like you're headed in the wrong direction. What does work backwards mean?
So it's the classic, I think it's Stephen Covey, right? It's the begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the big mistakes that I have realized over the last few years, especially with life coaching, reinvention coaching, is that first of all, we don't dream big enough. We don't think about possibilities and what's possible. And it doesn't mean that everybody needs to go exit and do some giant thing. It could be just, I'm at a farmer's market and I have a really successful business that is thriving, and it can look a lot of different ways. So, but let's go to the place where that's happened and that's fun. And you've created, listen, nobody starts a business to be chained to it and to have no freedom and to have
Yeah.
no money. And yet this is what happens, right? We started a business because we think it's going to be so fun and we're going to have all this freedom and we're going to make money and we're going to have relationships and purpose. And yet what ends up happening is we get chained to our business, and the business doesn't make money unless we're covered in flour and we're up until midnight and we're the only ones who can do the things correctly and do it right.
4:29
p.m. Right.
Yep.
And so starting with the end in mind of like, here's what a business looks like that's really fun for me, that's providing me with the income that I want, that's creating time for me, that I'm in my zone of genius, right? What am I meant for? And then then it's about like, how do we work it backwards? What does it look like to build a business that way? And the beauty of doing that is that it constrains you. You can't do all the things. And so you have to get really focused and tighter and go bigger, like double down on some things. And it doesn't, you're
I'm
going to wear all
taking
the
notes
hats
because
at
it's
the beginning.
yeah, this is awesome. It's like what needs to be true for that future vision that you want to have happen. It's not what might be true, would be nice to have, could be great if I could also, but like actually what needs to be true. I need to
Yeah.
be able to do this, this, and this, and oh man, they got to be big.
Yeah.
I took notes. I'm doing our 2024 planning right now, so this is really great. Sari, I can't thank you enough. You definitely lived up to the billing and the celebrity. So it's delightful to see you and have you here. I'll remind everybody to go get your free dose of Sari's goodness at foodbizsuccess.com/castiron. There is plenty of value in there, I know. And Sari, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Mark.
Have a wonderful day. Thanks, everybody.